You think animatronics are just machines? Until one of them isn't. At a popular theme park in Maryland, a lifelike pirate was supposed to be the star attraction. But when a maintenance worker checks a glitch, he finds something no one was supposed to see. A human body hidden inside the costume, preserved, frozen, and on display for years. Who allowed this? How did it happen? And are there others waiting in plain sight? This is the story of the lifelike pirate that wasn't a machine, and the horrifying truth behind it. Before we begin, I invite you to leave a comment on where you are watching from and the time you are listening to the story. To understand any of this, we need to go back to how it all started. The park sold itself as an escape. Roller coasters screaming over the midway, cotton candy melting in small hands, couples leaning over railings to watch fireworks bloom over the water. In summer, families from across Maryland poured through the gates like tidewater flooding a marina. But once the gates locked, it became something else. After hours, the music shut off. The lights dimmed to half power. The smell of fried dough faded, leaving behind metal, salt mist, and cleaning chemicals. An empty park feels larger than it does in daylight, wider, quieter, like it's holding its breath. Lyle Ryder had the late shift. He was a maintenance worker at the Buccaneer's Bounty theme park. Nobody else is scheduled tonight. That was clear on the board in the maintenance corridor beneath Buccaneer's Bounty. The park's most photographed attraction, a sprawling indoor pirate spectacle where cannons boomed, wooden decks creaked, and Captain Blackheart towered above it all, tankard raised, beard braided with plastic gold. Guests loved him. Parents posed their kids at his boots. Teenagers filmed him for social media. Some children, though, some reacted differently. Earlier that afternoon, a ride operator had mentioned it in passing. A little boy refused to walk past Blackheart, said the pirate was watching him, said he blinked. Lyle had laughed it off, but he'd paused, because it wasn't the first time someone said that. They always say he looks too realistic, the operator had added, half joking. Like, too real. Now the attraction was closed. Ropes up, lights low, security cameras blinking red from the corners. No guests, no laughter. Just the mechanical hum of systems left running to keep everything alive. And Captain Blackheart was malfunctioning. His animatronic arm, programmed to sweep outward in a grand toast, was glitching, jerking violently. The tankard in his grip sloshed water across the deck in uneven bursts. Not a smooth mechanical stutter. A twitch. At exactly 2:13 a dot and comma, Lyle stepped onto the set platform, boots echoing against fake wood. "Easy, buddy," he muttered like the pirate could hear him. The figure was massive up close. Sun-cracked paint, veins etched into silicone skin, individual strands in the beard, glass eyes so detailed you could see faint marbling. Too realistic. Lyle set down his toolbox and checked the control panel. Diagnostics showed a malfunction in the shoulder actuator. Nothing unusual. These things broke down all the time, but the arm jerked again. Harder this time. The movement didn't match the error code. Lyle frowned. He climbed the short maintenance ladder bolted behind the display. From up there, he could reach the access panel along the pirate's ribcage. The park was silent. After hours, silence is different. It presses on your ears. You start hearing things that aren't there. The soft click of cooling metal, the distant hum of ventilation, the faint whir of security cameras rotating on their mounts. He unscrewed the panel. Inside, wiring and pistons. Standard build. But when the pirate's arm spasmed again, the entire torso shifted. Not mechanically, like a recoil. Lyle froze. The diagnostic screen behind him still blinked a simple word: malfunction. But this didn't feel like one. He leaned closer to Captain Blackheart's face, inspecting the jawline for loose servos. That's when he saw it. Right along the pirate's neck, beneath the collar, where synthetic skin met fabric. A patch. Not silicone, not molded latex. Real texture, pores, and something else. A faint bruise blooming beneath the surface. Lyle didn't breathe, because animatronics don't bruise. And whatever he was looking at shouldn't exist. The moment Lyle Ryder stepped past the velvet rope and into the set, the noise swallowed him whole. Cannons boomed on a loop somewhere overhead. Speakers hidden in fake palm trees blasted drunken sea shanties. Mechanical gulls screeched and flapped on wires. The whole attraction was designed to feel chaotic and alive. But tonight, with the park closed and the crowd gone, it felt wrong. Too loud. Too empty. Every sound echoed like it didn't belong. The deck beneath his boots vibrated from the hydraulics cycling under the floor. Salt-scented mist puffed from hidden vents, mixing with the sugary smell of popcorn drifting in from the midway outside. The artificial ocean sloshed against fiberglass rocks in a repeating rhythm. Lyle adjusted the strap on his toolkit and muttered to himself, "Just a jammed servo, 5 minutes, in and out." He'd fixed Captain Blackheart a dozen times before. Same issue, same arm glitch, nothing special. Still, as he climbed the narrow service ladder behind the set, something tugged at the back of his mind. Guests used to joke about this pirate. Said he looked too real. Said his eyes followed them. Said he blinked when the lights flickered. Lyle always laughed it off. Good sculpting, he'd tell them. Expensive silicone. European designers. Theme parks loved realism. That's all this was. Right? He stepped onto the main deck platform beside the animatronic. Captain Blackheart towered over him. Nearly 7 feet tall. Boots planted wide. Tankard frozen mid-swing. Teeth bared in that permanent theatrical grin. Up close, the details were staggering. Not impressive. Staggering. The beard wasn't molded plastic like the older figures. It was individual stubble. Tiny black and gray hairs embedded into the skin. Uneven. Patchy. The way real facial hair grows. Lyle leaned closer. The skin wasn't glossy latex either. It had texture. Pores. Microscopic pores. Little craters that caught the light from his tablet screen. He reached out without thinking and hovered his fingers near the jawline. There were faint razor bumps under the stubble, like someone had shaved too fast. "Okay, that's new," he murmured. The eyes bothered him most. They weren't painted spheres. They were wet-looking, glassy, layered, like there was depth behind them. When he shifted left, the reflections shifted naturally too, the way real corneas catch light. For a split second, it felt like the pirate was tracking him, watching. Lyle stopped moving. The shanty music kept blaring. Cannons kept firing. But inside that noise, something went very still. It felt like someone was staring back. "Get a grip," he whispered to himself. He'd worked maintenance 15 years. Robots, hydraulics, foam, silicone, nothing else. He lifted his diagnostic tablet and the blue glow washed over the pirate's face. The screen light made everything worse. Too honest. It revealed faint color variations under the skin. Reds, blues, yellow undertones. Like blood used to flow there. His eyes drifted lower, across the neck. That's when he saw it. A faint dark line circling the throat. Not part of the costume. Not fabric. It looked like a mark. Thin, discolored, slightly indented. Like something had once pressed there. A rope burn. Or a ligature. Lyle's stomach tightened. "Probably just sculpt detail," he said aloud. But his voice sounded small. Even to him. He leaned closer. Too close. Close enough to smell it. Not plastic. Not grease. Something older. Like leather left in heat. Like an old jacket from a thrift store. And beneath that, something metallic. Faint. Iron-like. He swallowed. Then something happened that made his heart slam. The chest moved. Just barely. A tiny rise. Then stillness. Lyle froze. His breath caught halfway in. He stared at the rib cage. Nothing. Music, cannons, gulls. No movement. "You imagined it," he muttered. Hydraulics shifting. Still. He waited. Watching. Counting. 1, 2, 3. For a second, just a second, he could swear the chest expanded again. Like a breath trying to happen. His skin prickled. Every instinct screamed at him to back away. But the technician part of his brain pushed forward. Machines malfunction. They don't breathe. He stepped closer and pressed his palm lightly against the pirate's chest, expecting cold fiberglass. Instead, There was give. Firm, dense, not hollow, not plastic. Something that felt disturbingly like muscle beneath clothing. Warm from the stage lights. Lyle jerked his hand back like he'd touched a stove. His pulse hammered in his ears now, drowning out the music. Too human. Way too human. And standing there, inches from that frozen grin and those glassy eyes, Lyle Ryder felt something he hadn't felt since he was a kid afraid of the dark. The deep animal certainty that he wasn't alone on that deck. That this thing in front of him wasn't just a prop. And whatever it really was, it shouldn't be here. His fingers slid down the coat, searching blindly for the maintenance panel he'd opened 100 times before. That's when his knuckle caught on something that definitely didn't belong there. A thin ridge, running straight down the torso, hidden beneath the fabric, like a seam or a zipper. And suddenly the night didn't feel routine anymore. It felt like a mistake, a huge one. His hand touches his chest, expecting plastic, but something felt wrong. Most people scroll past dark stories like these without subscribing, but the truth is, every video costs hours to make. I will appreciate your support of my channel. Lyle Ryder forced himself to breathe normally. In, out. It's just machinery. That's all this ever is. Hydraulics, silicone, wiring, nothing alive, nothing human. The music from the speakers kept looping the same drunken chorus about treasure and rum, tinny and distorted this close to the ceiling. Cannon blasts rattled the deck every 30 seconds. Fake fog hissed from a vent near his boots. Everything about the set was loud and theatrical. Everything except the pirate standing inches from him. Captain Blackheart felt quiet, too quiet, like the silence at the center of a storm. Lyle shifted closer and pushed the heavy, tattered coat aside, fingers searching by memory for the maintenance access panel hidden beneath the costume. He'd done this dozens of times. There should have been a hard plastic hatch along the rib cage. 2 screws, pop it open, reset the arm servo. Simple, routine. His knuckles brushed the pirate's chest. He expected cold. Fiberglass always had that dead refrigerator cold feel, even under stage lights. Instead, warm. Not hot. Not body heat exactly. But warm enough that his brain stuttered. He paused, frowned, pressed again, slower this time. The surface gave under his touch, just slightly. A soft resistance. Not hollow like plastic, not rigid like molded foam. It compressed, then pushed back. Firm, dense, rubbery, like pressing on the heel of your own palm. Lyle snatched his hand away fast. His heart kicked hard against his ribs. What the hell? He wiped his palm on his jeans without thinking, like something sticky had gotten on him. That's just silicone, he muttered. High-end silicone. They upgraded the figures. That's all. But he'd worked with silicone molds before. This wasn't that. Silicone felt uniform, manufactured. This had variation. Subtle unevenness. Tiny ridges. Almost like, no, don't go there. He leaned in again, slower now, forcing himself to act professional. If something changed in the build, he needed to document it. That's what maintenance did. He pressed 2 fingers into the chest. The material sank inward a fraction, then stopped. There was something solid beneath it, something layered, like there were structures under the surface. His stomach tightened. It felt wrong, not broken wrong, not malfunctioning wrong, biologically wrong. This isn't right, he whispered. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Then the smell hit him. Faint, so faint he almost missed it. Not oil, not grease, not burnt wiring. Something older, dry, like an old leather jacket left in an attic for years. And underneath that, something metallic, sharp, like pennies, like blood. He froze. His brain scrambled for alternatives. Old insulation, rust, wet metal, anything but what it actually reminded him of. He swallowed hard. The cannon sound effect boomed again, making him flinch. Get it together, Lyle, he muttered. You're spooking yourself. He slid his hand across the chest, searching for the panel seam. The skin dragged slightly against his fingertips. Not slick plastic. There was friction, texture, tiny bumps, pores. He rubbed his thumb across it without thinking. It caught, like real skin catches. His breath hitched. He glanced up at the pirate's face. The glassy blue eyes stared past him, frozen in that theatrical grin. But from this angle, with the stage lights flickering overhead, the illusion shifted. The cheeks didn't look molded. They looked heavy, weighted, gravity pulling at them, like actual flesh would. And for 1/6 second, Lyle thought he saw the chest rise again. A shallow lift, then stillness. His pulse roared in his ears. "Nope," he said instantly. "Nope, hydraulic pressure, that's all." But he didn't believe himself. He placed his whole palm flat against the center of the chest now. Slow, careful. The warmth seeped into his skin. Not stage light warmth. Deeper than that. Trapped warmth. Like something that held temperature. Like something that used to circulate blood. His fingers trembled. He pressed harder. There was resistance. Then a strange firmness beneath. Layered. Like muscle under something else. His stomach flipped violently. He jerked his hand back again, this time stumbling half a step. His boot scraped loudly against the deck. The shanty music kept playing like nothing was wrong. The normalcy of it made everything worse. Bright colors, cheerful sounds, and this thing that felt like it shouldn't exist. He wiped his palm again, harder this time. His skin crawled. Every instinct told him to get down the ladder and call someone. Brenda? Security. Anyone. But another part of him, the stubborn technician who hated unsolved problems, pushed back. Find the panel. Fix the arm. Clock out. Forget this weird feeling. He leaned in one last time and slid his hand lower along the torso, under the coat lining. His fingers searched for the hard edge of plastic. Instead, they snagged. Caught on something thin. Raised. A line. Running vertically down the body. Not smooth. Not molded. It felt like a ridge stitched into the surface. Like two sides pressed together. His heart thudded once. Hard. Slow. He traced it with one finger. It traveled straight down the center of the chest. Too straight. Too deliberate. And when his fingertip brushed the tiny metal nub at the top, cold. Unmistakably metal. Every hair on his arm stood up at once. Because maintenance panels didn't have that. Animatronics didn't have that. But clothes did. And suddenly, Lyle Ryder wasn't thinking about hydraulics or silicone anymore. He was staring at something that felt disturbingly like a zipper. If you enjoy dark stories like this one, subscribe, because more mind-chilling stories are coming up in the days. Lyle Ryder stared at the line running down the pirate's chest. It was too straight to be accidental. Too clean. Too deliberate. His fingers hovered over it without touching, like it might shock him. Up close, it wasn't part of the sculpt at all. It was stitched into the skin. Fine thread. Precise. Almost surgical. Concealed so well it disappeared beneath the costume folds unless you were inches away. His mouth went dry. Animatronics don't have this, he whispered. Maintenance hatches were plastic plates, screws, hinges. Not this. Not something that looked like it belonged on clothing. Or worse, on a person. The zipper was thin, nearly invisible. Matte brass teeth embedded into the torso like it had grown there. Costume-like. Human. Wrong. The cheerful music overhead suddenly cut to the next loop, then stuttered before restarting. For a second, the entire attraction went quiet. No cannons. No singing. Just the low hum of hidden generators. The silence pressed in hard. Heavy. Like the whole pirate ship's set was holding its breath with him. From somewhere outside the building, a bat fluttered through the rafters, its wings flicking shadows across the lantern lights. Something metal clinked as it passed. Lyle flinched. Get a grip, he muttered. Just a ride. Just props. Just another late-night fix. Footsteps crunched on gravel outside the attraction entrance. Then a flashlight beam swept lazily through the fake porthole windows. Yo, Ryder, a voice called. It was Marcus Cole from Night Security. Everything good in there? System flagged the ride twice. The sudden normalcy of another human voice almost made Lyle laugh with relief. "Yeah," Lyle called back, forcing steadiness. "Arm motor's acting up again. 5 minutes." Marcus stepped into the doorway, flashlight tucked under his arm, sipping from a gas station coffee. His yellow vest reflected the emergency lights. He glanced up at Blackheart and shook his head. "Man, that thing creeps me out," Marcus said. "Looks too real. My kid cried last time we rode this." "Yeah," Lyle said quietly. "Too real." Marcus chuckled. "Holler if you need anything. I'll be doing rounds." His boots faded away down the path. The bat swooped once more and disappeared into the night. Silence returned, thicker now, like the set didn't want witnesses. Lyle turned back to the pirate. The grin hadn't changed. But now, knowing what he was looking at, it didn't feel theatrical anymore. It felt trapped. He swallowed and reached forward. His fingers trembled as they touched the tiny metal tab at the top of the hidden zipper. Cold, solid, real metal, not molded plastic, not fake. His heart pounded so loud he could hear it in his ears. If this opened to wires, he'd laugh at himself. If it opened to gears, he'd forget this whole stupid panic. "Just wiring," he whispered. "Just wiring." But deep down, he already knew. Slowly, carefully, he pulled. The zipper slid down with a soft, intimate hiss. Not mechanical, not industrial. Soft, like fabric parting, like clothing being opened. The sound crawled up his spine. The torso split slightly, a dark gap forming where plastic should have been. Lyle leaned closer, breath shaking, expecting to see bundles of cables and metal rods inside. Instead, he saw something pale, something smooth, something that definitely wasn't machinery. The zipper parted just enough for Lyle Ryder to peer inside. He expected wires, bundles of cables, hydraulic lines, cold mechanical guts. Instead, there was a cavity, hollow, clean, deliberate. For half a second, his brain refused to process what he was seeing. It didn't fit any category he knew. It wasn't robotics, wasn't engineering, wasn't anything that belonged inside an animatronic. Then his eyes adjusted, and everything clicked into place in the worst possible way. Inside the torso, arranged with careful precision, sat organs. Human organs, pale, still, suspended in a glassy, transparent resin like insects trapped in amber. A rib structure, a collapsed pair of lungs, something that looked horribly like a heart, dark and heavy, cradled in place by hardened polymer. Tubes and vessels spider-webbed outward, frozen mid-branch. Not rubber props, not Halloween decorations. Real tissue, real shapes, real anatomy. Museum-like, clinical, grotesque. Like someone had turned a human body into an art exhibit. Oh God, the smell hit him harder now that it was open. Old leather, chemical preservative, and that metallic tang, iron, blood. Even if it had been years, his stomach lurched violently. He clapped a hand over his mouth, gagging. No, no, no. His fingers trembled so badly he almost dropped the zipper tab. This wasn't possible. This wasn't a ride repair. This wasn't a malfunction. This was human. He stumbled backward, fast. His heel caught a wooden prop barrel. It tipped. Crash. A waterfall of fake gold coins exploded across the deck, clattering and skittering everywhere, the noise deafening in the enclosed space. The sound snapped through the attraction like a gunshot. Footsteps rushed in. "Ryder," Marcus Cole's voice echoed. "You good in there?" Lyle couldn't answer. He couldn't breathe. He just stared at the open chest cavity, shaking. Marcus jogged up the ramp, flashlight beams swinging wildly. "Man, what did you—" The light landed inside the pirate's torso. Marcus froze mid-step. The coins slowly finished clinking to a stop around their boots. Silence swallowed everything. The flashlight trembled in Marcus's hand. "What is that?" he whispered. Neither of them moved. Neither of them blinked. Two grown men, both staring at what looked like an anatomical display ripped straight out of a medical lab. Only this one was standing upright, dressed like a pirate, part of a children's ride. That's not wires, Marcus said hoarsely. Lyle shook his head slowly, hands shaking, teeth chattering. No, he whispered. That's not wires. The shanty music suddenly kicked back on overhead, cheerful and loud and wrong, like the park was trying to pretend nothing had happened. The pirate's tankard arm twitched once from the unfinished reboot, a jerky mechanical stutter, like a corpse trying to move, and against every instinct telling him not to. Lyle Ryder slowly lifted his eyes from the open torso and looked back up at the pirate's face. Lyle Ryder didn't want to look up. Every instinct told him not to. If he kept staring at the open chest cavity, maybe he could pretend this was some sick prop, some hyper-realistic medical prank, some twisted art installation. Anything but what his gut already knew. But something pulled his gaze upward anyway. Slowly. Reluctantly. Like watching a car crash you can't turn away from. His eyes climbed past the parted coat, past the ruffled shirt, past the thick rope-buckled belt, until they reached the face. Captain Blackheart, the star of the attraction, the mascot printed on t-shirts and souvenir cups. The pirate kids posed with all summer. Under the harsh maintenance lights, the illusion collapsed. This wasn't impressive sculpting anymore. This wasn't artistry. This was a face, a real one. The skin wasn't smooth latex. It had texture. Fine pores across the nose. Tiny broken capillaries near the cheeks. Subtle discoloration around the jaw like old shaving shadow. There were faint lines at the corners of the mouth, like someone who used to smirk a lot, used to laugh, used to live. Marcus stepped closer beside him, his boots crunching over the plastic coins. Why does it look like that? He whispered. Lyle didn't answer. He couldn't. He was staring at the eyes. They weren't painted. Not decals. Not glass marbles like every other animatronic in the park. They had depth. Layered color. Blue but not flat blue. Threads of gray. Tiny flecks of green. And moisture. Actual moisture. The overhead light reflected across the surface in a soft, wet sheen. Like real corneas. Like something that had once blinked. That's not glass, Marcus muttered, voice shaking. Those ain't fake. Lyle leaned closer without realizing it. Close enough to see the tiny red veins spidering out from the corners. Close enough to see individual eyelashes casting shadows on the cheeks. Eyelashes. Who the hell puts eyelashes on a robot? His heart pounded so hard it made his vision pulse. The pirate's stare wasn't theatrical anymore. It was empty, vacant, endless. Like the person behind those eyes had stepped out and never come back. And suddenly the park's old marketing slogan echoed in his head. Brought to life with cutting-edge realism. Brought to life. The phrase twisted in his stomach. No, not brought to life. Preserved, frozen, displayed, like an animal in a museum case. Like something that used to breathe. This isn't a figure, Lyle said quietly. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't have to. They both knew. Lyle's throat tightened as the final piece slid into place. The warmth, the smell, the organs, the skin, the eyes. All of it stacking up into one horrifying truth his brain didn't want, but couldn't deny. This isn't an animatronic, he whispered. His voice cracked. It's a person. The pirate's frozen grin suddenly looked wrong. Not cheerful, not theatrical. It looked forced, like someone had arranged his face after he couldn't move anymore. Marcus took a slow step back. Ryder, he said, we shouldn't be here, man. The tankard arm jerked suddenly beside them, the unfinished reboot kicking the motor. Clack. The sudden movement made both of them jump. The pirate's head twitched half an inch on its mount. Just enough to feel alive. That was it. The last straw. Call it in, Marcus said fast. Now, police, management, everybody. Lyle didn't argue. Couldn't. Because standing inches from that face, from those two human eyes staring through him, he felt something he hadn't felt since childhood. Pure animal panic. And every survival instinct screamed the same thing. Run. Panic didn't creep in. It hit Lyle Ryder all at once. Like falling through ice. His body moved before his brain caught up. "Nope," he muttered. "Nope, nope, nope." He stumbled backward, nearly slipping on the scattered plastic coins, then turned and bolted for the service ladder. Behind him, the pirate music restarted its cheerful chorus. Drunken voices singing about treasure, cannons booming, kids laughing through hidden speakers. The soundtrack felt wrong now, mocking, like the whole ride was laughing at him, at what he'd just seen. Marcus Cole was right behind him. "Go, go, go," Marcus urged. "Get out of there, man!" They climbed down too fast, boots clanging on the metal rungs. Lyle's hands were slick with sweat. He nearly missed a step. He didn't look back. Couldn't. Because part of him was terrified that if he did, the pirate wouldn't be frozen anymore, that it might be watching them leave. They hit the ground level and rushed through the fake tavern doors, past plastic barrels and foam treasure chests. The fog machines kept hissing. Lanterns flickered. Everything looked the same as it had an hour ago. Bright, colorful, family-friendly. And that made it worse. "How long's it been here?" Marcus said breathlessly. "How many people stood next to that thing?" "Don't," Lyle snapped. "Don't say that." They pushed through the staff-only exit into the back corridor. Instant quiet. No music. Just humming fluorescence and the distant buzz of vending machines. Reality again. But Lyle's heart wouldn't slow down. It hammered so hard he thought he might black out. "Control room," he said. "We call it in now." They hurried down the hallway, boots squeaking on tile. Lyle nearly crashed through the door. Inside, Brenda Alvarez sat at the console, half watching security monitors while scrolling her phone. A half-eaten sandwich rested beside a stack of paperwork. She looked up annoyed. "Ryder, what the hell?" She stopped mid-sentence, because he must have looked insane. Face pale, sweat-soaked, hands shaking. "You look like you saw a ghost," she said. He couldn't get the words out at first. His lungs wouldn't work. He just pointed back toward the attraction with a trembling finger. Marcus stepped in behind him, just as pale. "Something's wrong," Marcus said. "Real wrong." Brenda frowned. "What, the arm motor again?" "I told you guys we'll fix it in the morning. Don't start overtime drama tonight, please. The owner's already on my ass about budget." "It's not the motor," Lyle choked. "Then what?" He swallowed hard, forced the words out. "The pirate. It's not a machine." Brenda blinked. "What?" "It's real," he said. "It's a body. There's organs inside it. Real ones. Like a medical lab or something." She stared at him, then laughed once. Short, disbelieving. "Okay, funny. Seriously, what broke?" "I'm not joking." His voice cracked louder than he meant it to. "There's a zipper in its chest. We opened it." "It's a person, Brenda. Someone put a person in that ride." Silence. The fluorescent lights hummed. Brenda looked between the two men. "You both hit your heads or something?" she said. "Do you understand what you're saying right now? If the owner hears that kind of accusation, call it in," Marcus cut in. "Right now. Police. Not management. Police." Brenda's expression hardened. "You want me to call authorities because the animatronic feels weird?" "It doesn't feel weird," Lyle said quietly. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. "It smells like death." That did it. The room went still. Brenda studied his face again. Really looked this time. The fear wasn't acting. It wasn't exaggeration. It was pure, primal. She slowly turned toward the phone. "If this is a prank, Ryder, you're fired." "It's not." She picked up the line. Dialed. "Yeah," she said, voice tight. "This is Buccaneer's Bounty Theme Park. We need security and police dispatch. Possible body discovered inside one of our attractions." Even saying it sounded ridiculous. But she said it anyway. Lyle leaned against the wall, sliding down until he was sitting on the floor. His legs wouldn't hold him anymore. Marcus paced back and forth. Nobody spoke. Then, faint at first, distant, a rising wail. Sirens, getting closer, growing louder outside the park gates. And for the first time that night, Lyle Ryder realized something that made his stomach twist even harder than the discovery itself. Once those sirens arrived, there was no taking this back. By midnight, Buccaneer's Bounty didn't look like a theme park anymore. It looked like a crime scene. The front gates were locked. The glowing welcome sign shut off. Security guards turned away the last confused families with rehearsed lines about unforeseen technical difficulties. Earlier, guests had been rushed out mid-ride. Kids crying, parents complaining about refunds, phones already out, recording, posting, speculating. Why are cops at the pirate ride? Did someone die? Theme park accident? Rumors spread faster than staff could contain them. Now the midway sat empty. Prize booths dark. Food stands shuttered. Wind pushed paper cups across the pavement. The only light came from emergency strobes and police cruisers, reflecting red and blue off fiberglass palm trees. Yellow tape stretched across the entrance to the attraction. Crime scene. Do not cross. It fluttered gently in the artificial ocean breeze. Lyle Ryder stood behind the tape with Marcus Cole and Brenda Alvarez, arms wrapped around himself. He hadn't stopped shaking. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the inside of that chest cavity. The organs, the resin, that smell. You did the right thing, Marcus muttered. Lyle didn't answer, because a sick part of him wished he'd never touched the zipper at all. Two detectives ducked under the tape and entered the attraction. Detective Dana Harding walked first. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, hair pulled tight, the kind of face that didn't smile unless it had to. She moved like someone who'd seen everything already and wasn't impressed anymore. Her partner, Detective Eli Miller, followed behind, younger, broader, carrying a small evidence kit and two flashlights. Theme parks, Miller muttered. Swear every time we get called to one, it's something weird. Harding didn't respond. She just scanned the scene. Fake cannons, foam rocks, plastic treasure, bright paint peeling at the edges. A place built for laughter. Now silent, now wrong. Show's been powered down? She asked. Brenda nodded. Everything but emergency lighting. Good. Harding stepped onto the deck slowly, boots crunching over scattered plastic coins that still littered the floor from Lyle's fall. The sound echoed too loud in the empty attraction. Where is it? She asked. Lyle swallowed. Center platform, he said quietly, by the main mast. His voice barely sounded like his own. They approached together. The pirate still stood exactly where he'd left it. Tankard raised. Grin frozen. Zipper half open. Like nothing had happened. Like it hadn't just ruined his life. Harding stopped a few feet away. Studied it. Head tilted. Hell of a prop, Miller said. Yeah, Lyle muttered. That's what we thought. Harding stepped closer and pulled on gloves. Snap. Snap. She gently parted the coat and shined her flashlight inside the opening. The beam illuminated the cavity, the preserved organs, the resin-suspended tissue. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Miller leaned in beside her. He lasted about 2 seconds. Jesus! He turned away fast, gagging. Jesus Christ, that's not fake! Harding didn't gag, didn't flinch, but her jaw tightened. Her professional mask slipped just enough to show disgust. Zip it down further, she said calmly. You sure? Miller asked. We need to see everything. He swallowed and nodded. Harding crouched, inspecting the edges. Not costume work, she murmured. Look at the stitching, surgical precision. Whoever did this knew anatomy. Her flashlight traced along the rib structure. The lungs, the heart, all preserved, she said. Not decomposed, treated. She exhaled slowly, low, controlled. This is beyond anything. The words hung heavy in the air. Not a joke, not exaggeration. A seasoned detective saying she'd never seen anything like it. That's when it truly hit Lyle. This wasn't his imagination. Wasn't stress. Wasn't some park secret he misunderstood. Police were here. Detectives. Evidence kits. Real law enforcement. Which meant one thing. This was real. Harding stood. Call forensics, she said. Full team. I want this entire figure documented, scanned, and opened properly. Every inch. Miller nodded and grabbed his radio. Yeah, we're gonna need the lab van, he said. And maybe a stomach of steel. Harding glanced back at the frozen pirate one more time. At the empty, human eyes staring past them. Then at Lyle. "You're the one who found it?" she asked. He nodded. Her expression softened slightly. "You did the right thing calling it in." Then she turned back to the body. "Forensics is going to open him up further," she said quietly. "And I have a feeling we're about to find out exactly who this used to be." By 1:47 a.m., Buccaneer's bounty looked less like an attraction and more like an operating room. Bright portable floodlights replaced the colorful stage lamps. Extension cords snaked across the fake wooden deck. Evidence markers dotted the floor between scattered plastic coins. White tents had been set up just outside the entrance to block curious cameras. The word had already spread online anyway. 2 patrol cars, then 4, then the coroner van. Someone posted a blurry photo of police tape near the pirate ride. Within minutes. "Theme park death? Heard someone got crushed. Friend says FBI there." Something serious happened. Speculation exploded. Inside, reality was worse. Forensics moved with quiet precision. Gloved hands, face shields, soft clinical voices. Nothing like the chaos Lyle expected. It was calm, professional, which somehow made it even more disturbing. Because they weren't reacting like this was impossible. They were reacting like this was evidence. Like a body. Like a victim. "Okay," said Dr. Naomi Chen, the lead forensic pathologist, stepping onto the deck. "Let's treat this exactly like we would any other deceased individual. Photos first, then we examine." Cameras flashed. Click, click, click. The pirate's frozen grin lit up over and over. Lyle stood off to the side with Marcus, both wrapped in blankets someone had handed them. He couldn't look away. Every flash made it feel more human. More real. Not a prop. Not an object. A person being documented. Like a crime show. "Chest cavity already opened?" Dr. Chen asked. Harding nodded. "Maintenance found the zipper." "Doctor," Chen raised an eyebrow. "A zipper, that's new." She crouched and carefully pulled the opening wider. The floodlights poured into the torso. Everything inside gleamed. Smooth, glossy, suspended. "Jesus," Miller muttered again. But Chen didn't react emotionally. She studied, measured, analyzed. She gently tapped one of the exposed organs with a metal probe. It made a faint, solid sound. Not wet, not soft, more like hardened rubber. "Not fresh tissue," she said calmly. "Not decomposition either." She glanced back at Harding. "This is preservation." "What kind?" Harding asked. Chen stood. "Plastination." The word hung there. Nobody spoke. Marcus leaned toward Lyle. "What's that even mean?" Chen overheard. "It's a medical technique," she explained, voice clinical but steady. "Used in anatomy labs and museums. They remove water and fat from the body and replace it with polymer resin or silicone." She pointed inside the chest. "That resin hardens, preserves everything exactly as it was." "Like a wax figure?" Miller asked. "Closer to a statue," Chen said. "Real tissue, just chemically stabilized." She traced the outline of the lung. "No rot, no collapse, no smell of decay. It can last decades." Lyle felt sick. Decades. "You're saying," Harding began slowly, "this whole thing is real?" Chen nodded once. "Every part of it." She shined her light deeper. "Organs treated individually. Blood vessels injected. Even the skin looks infused. This isn't amateur work. This is medical grade." "Someone turned him into this on purpose," Harding said. "Carefully," Chen added. "This takes time, equipment, expertise." She stepped back and crossed her arms. "I've seen plastinated cadavers at universities, educational displays, cross-sections, muscles." She looked up at the pirate's face. "But I've never seen it used like this." They all followed her gaze. A full human, posed, dressed, installed into a theme park ride. A body-turned statue. Entertainment. The words felt obscene. "So it's not an animatronic at all," Miller said quietly. "No," Chen replied. She met Harding's eyes. "This is a preserved human male. 100%. Silence fell heavy across the deck. Even the generators seemed quieter. For Lyle, something shifted inside. Hearing a professional say it out loud made it final. Not might be. Not looks like. Human. Confirmed. His legs felt weak again. Marcus muttered, "Man, people been taking selfies with that thing for years." Nobody answered. Chen snapped off her gloves. "All right, next step is identification. Teeth, bone structure, maybe DNA if the process didn't destroy too much." Harding nodded. "How long?" "Few hours if we're lucky." Chen looked back at the pirate's face one more time. "At some point, this man had a name." She motioned to her team. "Let's find out who he used to be." Weeks would pass before the DNA results arrived. Lyle and Marcus knew that much. The police promised to keep in contact with Julian Vance, the theme park's elusive owner, though they expected little from him. Vance was calm, distant, the kind of man whose words were measured, rehearsed, almost rehearsed to hide intent. Nobody imagined him panicking. Nobody imagined him admitting anything. Lyle pictured him behind his desk, staring at the lights of the park, maybe reading reports, maybe not, indifferent to the human tragedy tucked inside his centerpiece. And yet the question lingered, gnawing. Would he even speak when it mattered? The lab was quiet. Too quiet. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as the forensic technicians worked. Lyle Ryder and Marcus Cole watched from behind the tape, leaning against a metal railing. The pirate's frozen grin stared past them, indifferent. Dr. Naomi Chen held a small tablet in her gloved hands. "This is it," she said softly, almost to herself. "DNA results are back, cross-referenced with national missing person files and dental records." Lyle felt his stomach tighten. Miller peered over her shoulder. "Go on." Chen's voice dropped. "The body. It's Adrian Thorne." The words hit like a physical blow. Adrian Thorne. Gone 5 years. A rising star, a charismatic young actor. Vanished without a trace. The kind of disappearance that haunted entertainment columns and true crime forums for years. Lyle remembered the blurbs at the time. Talented actor disappears mysteriously. Police baffled by sudden disappearance of rising star. Family still searching for answers. Marcus muttered, almost under his breath, "No way." Chen tapped a button, bringing up side-by-side images on the screen. One was a publicity shot of Adrian, bright-eyed, perfect teeth, hair swept back, a confident smirk. The other was the preserved pirate. The resemblance was undeniable. The eyes once filled with life, now locked in an endless gaze. The jawline, the faint scar on the neck that Adrian had from a childhood accident. Even in resin and preserved tissue, the connection was there. Lyle swallowed hard. He felt sick. Did the family know?" Marcus asked quietly. Chen shook her head. "They have no idea. No contact, no will, no statements on record. His parents, Robert and Elaine Thorne, filed missing person reports for years. Nothing led anywhere. A small photograph lay on the evidence table, a Polaroid taken during a theater rehearsal. Adrian smiling at the camera, his arm slung around a co-star. Lyle reached forward but didn't touch it. "Look at him," Miller said, voice trembling. "He was so alive in this." Chen sighed. "The preservation is technically brilliant. It's horrifying, but it's near perfect. Every detail, every pore, every vein, even his expression. But it doesn't explain why. Who would do this?" The room seemed to shrink around them. "His family," Lyle whispered. "Robert and Elaine. They gave up hope years ago. They probably thought he ran off or worse." Marcus shook his head. "They'd never imagined this." Chen brought up another screen. Adrian's missing person file. Old photos of the family. A grief-stricken mother. A father who hadn't aged well. Siblings holding on to hope longer than they should have. Lyle read a quote from Elaine Thorne in a news article. "We'll never stop looking. No matter how long it takes, we'll bring him home." And here he was. Home, but not really. And now nothing would ever be the same. "Okay," Harding said, stepping into the room for the first time since they entered. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were cold. "We have a name, but who authorized this?" The question hung in the air. Everyone in the lab paused. It wasn't just a ride malfunction. It wasn't an art project gone wrong. Somebody had made a decision. Somebody had decided Adrian Thorne would not just vanish. Somebody had decided he would live forever. Trapped, displayed, preserved. Lyle's hands clenched into fists. Marcus leaned closer to Chen. Legally, could anyone do this? Consent? Chen didn't answer right away. She adjusted her gloves, staring at the pirate figure. If there was consent, it would have to be explicit, written, legal. Otherwise, it's murder. The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the soft hum of the lab seemed sinister. The preserved eyes of Adrian Thorne stared at them from across the room, and Lyle realized something horrifying. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because the moment they knew who was inside, the next question became unavoidable. Who allowed this? And the answer was somewhere in the shadows, waiting. Julian Vance sat behind a polished mahogany desk, the glow of city lights reflecting faintly off the glass walls behind him. Calm, smiling, almost casual, but the air in the room carried a weight. Cold, calculated, the kind of calm that made you nervous even before he spoke. Julian had been a fixture in the amusement park world for over 2 decades. Founder and CEO of Buccaneer's Bounty, he built his empire on spectacle, obsession with detail, and experiences that felt almost alive. People admired him. Critics whispered about him. But everyone knew one thing. Vance never did anything halfway. Detective Harding and Miller entered with the formalities. Badges displayed, questions at the ready. Vance didn't rise. He didn't flinch. He just tilted his head slightly, letting the faint light catch the edge of his grin. "Detectives," he said softly, almost theatrically. "I assume you're here about the pirate?" Harding's jaw tightened. "Mr. Vance, don't play games. We have evidence that a human body was preserved and displayed in your attraction. A missing actor, Adrian Thorne, a 5-year-old cold case." Vance's smile didn't waver. He steepled his fingers on the desk. "Yes, I'm aware of Adrian. Remarkable young man, brilliant, ambitious." His tone was almost admiring, not defensive. "You must understand, I operate differently than most people. I believe in pushing boundaries, in immersive experiences. Art that transcends expectation." Harding leaned forward. "Art doesn't involve plastinating a man and putting him in a theme park ride." Vance chuckled softly, a quiet, eerie sound that didn't reach his eyes. "I understand how that sounds, but consider this. Adrian Thorne volunteered. He was aware of the process. He wanted to leave a legacy, to be remembered." Miller's eyes narrowed. "You expect us to believe a missing person, a young actor, signed away his life like a contract?" Vance leaned back, his chair creaking faintly. "Not just any contract. One crafted meticulously, legal, binding, and ethical by the standards he agreed to. Adrian desired immortality, and I provided the means." Harding's hands were on the table now. "Immortality? You destroyed him. You stole his life. His family never consented. His fans never consented. This isn't art. It's a crime." Vance's grin widened slightly. "Crime is often in the eye of the beholder. I see vision, progress, advancement. Every museum, every medical lab, every plastinated display started somewhere. Why should a theme park be any different?" He paused, eyes scanning Harding and Miller, appraising. "I've spent decades building experiences that defy expectation. People flock to the impossible. And yes, Adrian was part of that impossibility. He wanted it." Harding's voice cut sharp. "You're a billionaire obsessed with realism, obsessed with pushing limits, obsessed enough to take a human life or manipulate one just to make a showpiece." Vance leaned forward, suddenly intimate, lowering his voice as though sharing a secret. "Obsessed? Perhaps, but visionary certainly. The difference between obsession and genius is perspective. I think history will understand me." Miller's knuckles whitened on the table. "History won't forgive you, and neither will the law." Vance's laugh was soft, almost musical. "Law is a constraint. Art is freedom. And you detectives," he added, fixing them with a calm stare, "you are witnesses to what humanity can achieve when imagination is untethered. Nothing more." Harding's eyes narrowed, scanning the room. His office was immaculate, each object perfectly placed, every line of sight controlled. Corporate coldness wrapped in theatrical charm. Nothing chaotic, nothing accidental, everything curated. And yet, Harding said slowly, there's a human in your centerpiece, a person, not a model, not an animatronic, a man, preserved, without his family's knowledge, without public consent. That isn't genius, Mr. Vance. That's monstrosity. Vance leaned back again, hands clasped, serene. Monstrosity is a matter of perspective. My intention was to create something eternal, to push reality into legend. Adrian Thorne wanted to be part of that legend, and he is. Miller shook his head. He is part of a nightmare. Vance's smile softened, almost sympathetic. Some nightmares inspire awe. Some dreams terrify. You feel horror now, yes, but in decades people will marvel, and you detectives will be part of recording it. Observers of history. Harding's gaze hardened. We'll see how the law records history, and we'll see what the world thinks about your art. Vance nodded politely, serene, composed, unflinching. Of course, that's why I cooperate. Transparency as much as possible. But Harding knew better. The calm, the smile, the almost polite tone. It wasn't cooperation. It was control, calculation, coldness crafted to disarm. She felt it in her bones. This man was dangerous, not because he was volatile, but because he was deliberate. Every move considered, every word a weapon. And one more thing, she said quietly, leaving him with a final weight. We'll find out who else knew about this, who signed off, who enabled it. Vance's expression didn't change. He simply leaned back, hands steepled, serene, smiling. Then I look forward to your discoveries. But be careful. Some truths are heavier than they appear. The room went silent. Harding and Miller left, minds racing, stomachs tight, and Lyle, standing behind the police line, felt the chill settle over him. Because the darkness wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Somewhere in the shadows of Buccaneer's bounty, Julian Vance was smiling, calm, unfazed, waiting. And the question that haunted them all still hung in the air. Who else allowed this? Julian Vance leaned back in his chair, the city lights gleaming off the glass behind him. He placed a leather-bound folder on the desk, sliding it across toward Harding and Miller. Calm, polished, almost theatrical. Inside, the pages were crisp, typed in small, precise font, each clause seemingly innocuous on its own. But Harding had learned long ago that monsters often hide in the margins. Vance gestured. Everything you need is here. Legal, binding, ethical within the letter of the law. Miller exhaled sharply, eyes narrowing. Ethical? You put a man in a ride, preserved him. That's not ethical. Vance smiled, faint, almost serene, perhaps in spirit. But the letter is clear. Harding flipped open the folder, scanning quickly. The top pages detailed the project. Project Immortality. Its aim, according to Vance, was to push human experience into art, combining cutting-edge preservation with performance-based storytelling. It was clinical, almost sterile. But then Harding's eyes caught the fine print. Deep within, nearly obscured by legal jargon, was the clause that made her stomach turn. All physical remains post-mortem, including tissues, organs, and skeletal structure, are hereby granted in perpetuity to the management of Buccaneer's bounty for the purposes of artistic, educational, or entertainment exhibition. The undersigned waives all claims or rights to said remains. She paused. Read it again. And again. Miller's voice broke the silence. He signed this? Yes, Vance said softly. Adrian Thorne, 5 years ago. Legally binding. Witnessed, notarized. Every step documented. Harding's fingers shook slightly. She imagined Adrian, the young actor, perhaps desperate, perhaps naive, putting pen to paper. She looked up at Vance. Why would he agree to something like this? Vance leaned forward, voice measured. Because desperation is a powerful motivator. Adrian's family had debts, looming, crushing. His mother and father, siblings, struggling. He saw a way to secure them, a substantial advance, and the promise of eternal remembrance. The weight of it hit Harding suddenly. The man hadn't just volunteered for art. He had gambled his life to save the people he loved. But the cost was beyond comprehension. Lyle Ryder, standing silently near the doorway, felt bile rise in his throat. He imagined the young actor in a cold room, reading the contract, thinking, "This is my only way to help my family." Miller's jaw tightened. So his family never even knew? They thought he vanished. Vance nodded slightly. They were aware of his career ambitions. Beyond that, the details were private. Adrian handled it all himself. The documentation is airtight. I am merely the custodian of his final wishes. Custodian? Harding spat the word like venom. You turned him into a display, a human statue. You called it art. You destroyed him. Vance's expression remained serene, almost sympathetic. Destruction implies intent to harm. My intent in that was preservation, immortality, legacy. Adrian Thorne wanted it. He agreed. His family benefited materially, and perhaps emotionally, knowing he would never be forgotten. Harding's hands clenched around the folder. Every clause, every line screamed exploitation. The tragedy cut deeper because it wasn't blind cruelty. It was calculated, legal, and sanctioned by the victim himself under duress. Vance tapped the folder lightly. I understand your moral outrage, but legally? This is airtight, and yes, it is macabre, but beauty and horror often coexist. Adrian Thorne lives on permanently, and that is extraordinary. Miller shook his head. Extraordinary isn't the word. Criminal, twisted, unthinkable. Vance tilted his head, soft smile unchanging. Perhaps history will judge differently, but for now the truth is documented, signed, notarized, final. Outside, beyond the tinted windows, the world waited. And once this story leaked, once the media got wind of a missing actor turned permanent park exhibit, it would explode. Social feeds would light up. Headlines would demand answers. Families would cry. Morality debates would rage. Harding closed the folder slowly, the words seared into her mind. She glanced at Miller, at Lyle, at Marcus standing stiffly nearby. It had begun. The public would see this, and they would ask, who allowed this? Who enforced it? Who profited from it? And Julian Vance, calm, composed, smiling, already imagined the world's reaction, already prepared to watch the outrage unfold. Because in his mind, the truth, however horrifying, was just part of the masterpiece. And the media storm was inevitable. The news hit like a tsunami. You couldn't scroll for 10 seconds without seeing it. Headlines screamed across YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and even CNN. Lifelike pirate found to be missing actor, one banner read. Adrian Thorne's terrifying preservation revealed. Comments flooded in, outrage spilling over like wildfire. People couldn't believe it. They refused to believe it. Protests sprang up outside Buccaneer's bounty, chanting, waving signs. Justice for Adrian. Art isn't consent. Monsters in charge. Lawyers sniffed opportunity. Lawsuits were filed before the ink had dried. Memes, reaction videos, and viral clips multiplied by the hour. Vance remained calm, unsurprised, almost smug in his interviews. Everything was legal, he repeated, voice smooth, almost hypnotic. Project Immortality was fully sanctioned. Adrian Thorne chose this. Art requires risk and sometimes discomfort. I provide both. The public didn't care. Ethics had collided violently with legality, and society recoiled. News segments debated morality. Philosophers, ethicists, even other theme park owners weighing in. Social media fractured into furious factions. Some condemned Vance. Some marveled at the technological achievement. But beneath it all, one question lingered. Was Adrian the only one? Rumors began to swirl. A TikTok user claimed that they had seen other figures being tested in off-limits areas. A Reddit thread exploded with speculation. Were other missing people hidden in plain sight? Were other bodies preserved, waiting silently behind animatronic facades? The park had always boasted hyper-realistic figures. Now every statue, every wax figure, every lifelike prop became suspect. Lyle Ryder watched it all unfold from a quiet apartment several towns over. He couldn't sleep. Every night, the tinny cries of the park's automated gulls echoed in his mind. Every shadow on his wall seemed to shift. like the stare of Captain Blackheart following him. Even months later, he felt that empty blue gaze, unblinking, through every social media clip, every news photo. Marcus Cole called occasionally, voice low. People are asking if there's more. Are there others? Lyle didn't answer. He couldn't. The fear, the disbelief, the weight of knowing, it haunted him. He had seen behind the curtain, the magic, the spectacle, the illusion of fun. It was gone, replaced by something else, something calculated, something endless. The park remained shuttered indefinitely. Security guarded the gates, but curiosity and paranoia had no barriers. Online forums speculated endlessly. Children's birthday parties that had once brought laughter now felt like they had teetered on the edge of something grotesque. Vance's name trended everywhere. His calm demeanor in interviews only fueled fascination and disgust simultaneously. Visionary and monster were used interchangeably. Historians would argue over decades whether his actions were art or atrocity. But for now, the public debate was raw, viral, and relentless. And Lyle? He walked through life like a shadow. Every animatronic he passed, every museum exhibit, even every hyper-realistic movie CGI figure, it was all suspect now. His dreams were haunted by the subtle movements he had felt in Blackheart's chest. The soft give beneath the waistcoat, the invisible zipper, the eternal stare. The questions never ended. How many others had signed up? How many more lifelike figures were hidden in plain sight? And what would happen when the world demanded answers that no law could provide? He didn't have an answer. But every night when the wind whispered through the empty streets, Lyle swore he heard the faint, tinny cry of gulls echoing across time. And somewhere, just out of sight, Captain Blackheart waited, frozen in his eternal performance, a grim reminder of dreams gone horribly wrong. Lyle Ryder had left the park industry entirely. The smell of popcorn, the tinny gulls, the flashing lights, they haunted him like ghosts. He couldn't go back, not after seeing what hid behind the curtain. The magic was gone, replaced by something cold, calculated and terrifying. The knowledge of human desperation and the extremes to which people would go in the name of art, fame, or survival. Some nights, long after the world had gone quiet, he would hear it. A soft, mechanical cry of gulls, far off but unmistakable. The wind would whistle through his empty apartment, and he could almost see it. The faint, fixed smile of Captain Blackheart, eternally frozen, eternally watching. A reminder of a dream twisted into a nightmare. He tried to push the images away, tried to convince himself it was only memory, only trauma replaying. But then he saw it, by chance, in a dusty folder of old promotional photos from Buccaneer's bounty. A figure standing among the new ride prototypes. Too lifelike, too perfect, too human. Lyle froze. He squinted. The skin texture, the eyes, the posture. It wasn't a model, not entirely. It was subtle, almost impossible to prove. But it was enough to make his stomach twist. And he realized the truth he had suspected. Blackheart might not have been the only one. Every amusement park ride, every lifelike figure, every waxy display he'd once admired suddenly felt sinister. Each smile, each frozen gesture, each glimmer of glassy eyes could hide a story like Adrian Thorne's. The possibility made his skin crawl. The world would never look the same again. He thought of Vance, calm, composed, smiling, watching the storm of outrage, untouchable, legal, precise, untouchable. And yet in that meticulous perfection, in that obsession with immortality, there was a darkness that no law could contain. Lyle couldn't unsee it. He couldn't unhear it. The echoes of the park, of that single horrifying discovery, followed him everywhere. The gulls' cries, the faint clink of fake coins, the metallic hiss of a zipper. Haunting reminders of a reality nobody else wanted to believe. Sometimes, in the quietest moments, he would whisper the warning to himself. Every lifelike statue could be a story frozen in time. Every perfect figure could once have been someone who wanted to live forever and never consented to their cost. And then inevitably, he thought of the photo again. The figure among the new prototypes, staring blankly into the camera. Too real, too human. And the memory of that first frozen smile, the one that had started it all, burned in his mind. After that night, every lifelike statue started looking like someone who used to be alive. And Lyle knew with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that he would never be able to look at them the same way again. What Lyle Ryder learned, and what we all should take away, is that sometimes the line between art and obsession is terrifyingly thin. Dreams of immortality, fame, or perfection can come at a cost nobody imagines. And behind every lifelike statue or animatronic, there could be a story frozen in time, a human desire turned into something macabre. If this story unsettled you, imagine what else is hidden in plain sight. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because our next video dives even deeper into the mysteries that lurk behind the attractions we think we know.